Hi, everyone, and welcome to Heal Endometriosis Naturally with Wendy K Laidlaw. Wendy has spent the last 2 years helping women with various stages of endometriosis to heal naturally after putting her condition into remission. After her own healing success from stage 4 endometriosis and adenomyosis, she's inspired to heal others, and her goal is to help some of the 175 million women know that there is another way other than painkillers, drugs, or surgery. This is the place to be for real talk with real people for real results, so you can learn how to heal your endometriosis naturally. Please note that the opinions expressed in this program may represent options, but are not a substitute for proper medical care. Before starting any new healthcare program, we recommend you consult with a health professional.
Hey everyone, it's Wendy K Laidlaw here, and as always I do hope that this message finds you well. Now today we're having a slightly different format in that I've got the lovely Maxine here with me. She is my head coach at the EndoBoss team, and we've kind of been aware that within some of the ladies in the community that they've been kind of struggling with that discerning different types of what I refer to as toxic people. And what I mean by toxic people is people that just never seem to be able to please. They're always whinging and complaining. They're never happy. They're always criticizing, judging, complaining, all that kind of stuff. And they can just be quite wearing, especially if they're a parent or a partner or someone that you work with. So what I thought is Maxie and I would jump on here today and have a little discussion. We've had our own experiences recently, and sometimes there are different strategies are required for different people. But I thought if we can just even open up this conversation, we've actually got a handout, which, if you want to email my team, we can email to you for free, which kind of really goes through the 11 types of toxic people. But I always found on my journey, sometimes just people talking about their own experiences, how they handled it, how they felt, and then starting to put tiny little boundaries in, which then can expand into bigger boundaries, just gives you the confidence to deal with these people. So welcome, Maxine. It's good to have you here.
It's lovely to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yes, well, we've had our own experiences recently, and I know you had a couple of personal experiences with two particular women, and I know it's quite challenging because they were very much violin music, poor them, victim them, and of course, because you've got a big heart, you kind of fell, if you like, for their story to start with.
Yeah.
And then the nicer that you were to them, the more that they took advantage.
Yeah.
And I thought maybe there was the latter one in particular might be quite interesting to talk about, because she had made a request on something initially, hadn't she?
Yeah.
And perhaps you could explain that story a little bit.
Yeah. Well, the kind of latter one did ask me a question to kind of expand a little bit on my boundaries. And I guess as we know, this kind of certain characteristic does from our experience, they're kind of treading the water and seeing what they can get away with. So had reached out to ask me a question, and I had to come back to myself and put in a firm boundary. And this question that was asked came across quite nice and thoughtful in the moment. But actually, once my boundary was put in, the response from that made us all identify that was a toxic person, because they were not happy with that boundary and had a hidden agenda behind that first perceived nice question that had been asked. There actually was a hiddenness to that. So that was where putting in that boundary really kind of drew out that and validated perhaps some question marks that had come up, very light question marks that had come up early days. But it's that classic, we don't know until we know. And when these things are presented like that, there was no denying that response showed the hidden agenda.
Yeah, well, I think when you first said, this person's asked this question, and we initially thought, oh, okay, that's good. And then sometimes, as you said, we don't know until we really know what a person's like. So when you're first meeting someone new, you can only go from the information that you've gleaned and what you've learned about a person. And if they're new, it's not a lot of information. And I think for women with endometriosis, or women in general, we're using our body and our instincts all the time to see how our bodies and instincts are responding to this person. So so you said, oh, look at this, blah, blah, blah. And I thought, oh, okay, that's a reasonable question to ask.
Yeah.
But what was really telling about this person was when you'd had time to think about it, clarify the points that she'd raised in her question. And they were pretty benign and very reasonable. Again, it was a very pleasant response that you gave this woman. Her retort, her response to you clarifying some particular elements was to rage and to cast fury upon you, which I feel is very much the mark of what I class as a toxic person.
Yeah.
An unreasonable, because you can't reason with an unreasonable person. And this person, as you said, was just clearly pushing the mark and the boundaries. And thank goodness, from our experience, that you had taken time to consider. You journaled on it, you thought on it, you discussed it, and then you went back in your own time. You didn't feel time pressure, because again, what we find with toxic people is they're very impatient. You want to answer straight away, and you're feeling the pressure.
Yeah.
But you felt all of that, but didn't respond or didn't react to it. You responded when you were ready. And then that retort that you got back from her was, and now we know what she's really like.
Yeah. And totally, is that when you start almost noticing, perhaps after being around someone or engaging with someone, that you start to have questions over things, or you start to feel, a little bit insecure about something, or something new comes up. It's then taking that time, going slowly, just kind of really, really slow contact until you are happy to engage. And I always think, if you're almost having that question mark and that noticing about having to go slow or be careful what you're saying, again, is a sign that you are perhaps, engaging with some sort of toxic person. If you're having to think carefully about what's being put into a message or an email or even into a conversation, that is, your deep instincts speaking to you. Because a lovely person, you can there's obviously going to be an element we don't know, like we're saying, until you know. But with a lovely person, there's not that same element of, I better not say that, or I better be careful what I write. And yes, you're right, that time pressure, very much toxic people make you feel that you are having to react quickly, and actually that you're unreasonable,
that you're the problem.
That there's something wrong with you. And I always think it's when you're sat there almost a little confused, it's that word, like that kind of gaslighting is that word that has been used in kind of media and different ways, where someone makes you think that you're almost going a bit mad with their response, because it's confusing.
You don't understand what the problem is.
I don't understand why I've just got this aggressive response. I thought we were being kind back and forth to each other, and it kind of takes you by surprise. Is another kind of sign of that toxic person. And the fact that you've needed to go slow is that sign.
It's indicative of your instincts picking up that, because when you are dealing with nice, reasonable people, it's a really nice, reasonable interaction. There aren't any issues, or if there's any question marks or gray areas, you're both kind of going, okay, no problem at all. Whereas this person, I would call it in Scotland, sleek it. They were being very sneaky and sleek it about how they were approaching this. But I'm just so thankful that this was found out ahead of time. So you're able to allow yourself the time to really listen to yourself. But that type of person, had you not put those boundaries in, and everyone who's listening, you'll know you will have encountered that type of person where you kind of go, okay, then, well, on this occasion, I'll just let that one go. And then before you know it, they're pushing on another thing, and they're pushing on another thing. And I think there is a tendency, I know some women have been asking this recently, kind of like, it's really exhausting to put a boundary in. And then for those who don't know what a boundary is, obviously there's boundaries in the physical sense of like a fence that separates one piece of land from the other. But what I'm talking about with boundaries is you being clear on what you're comfortable with, or what is comfortable for you in terms of how much you want to give, or how much you want to do, or what works for you as a woman. And of course, as I say, women with endometriosis tend to be very big-hearted, very giving, thinking of others, which is absolutely nothing wrong with. But when you have people taking advantage of your good nature, this is as part the healing journey, you're learning, and it's tough, it's challenging at times, because we'd all love to be all skipping along in the sand under rainbows and with unicorns. It just doesn't work like that.
Yes.
I was explaining to a group earlier this week that in the animal kingdom, you can't go running along and greeting everybody like a big lovable Labrador, because you get stung, beaten, and eaten,
Yes.
ultimately. And it's no different in the human world and our human societies. It's just that we've learned to be far more sophisticated, or certainly toxic people have had to learn. They've been forced to learn how to be more sophisticated in their own desire to seek attack. So a boundary is, first of all, identifying what you're comfortable with, accepting what you're prepared, or what your limits are. And sometimes, that takes time to figure that out. We don't know until a situation presents itself. But invariably, in our experience, a toxic person doesn't like that you have your own thoughts and feelings and boundaries, in inverted commas.
So that's
it's
a threat.
It's a threat. Like, how dare you? We have this thing where we say, never say no to a narcissist. And again, a narcissist is a very generic term for somebody who is just solely focused on themselves at the expense of someone else. So again, there's varying degrees of that in psychological terms. But what we teach is empowering women, first of all, to tune into their own instincts, as you said, with that situation, listen to themselves, write it down, take the time, take as much time as you like, feel the other person pushing, and let them push. They're allowed to push, but you not obviously feel the pressure to respond. And that's where putting, and I say a boundary, and it's not like a fist in the face boundary. It's like, I hear that you would like me to jump through 15 hoops and out a second floor window, but actually I prefer to walk down the stairs and not jump through any hoops. It's that kind of simple
way to explain it.
Because when this other type of personality, and oh my goodness, the number of people, and I think there's a great book that we read by Will Storm, I think it's How the West Became Self-Obsessed. And the type of women that we are, and the type of women we work with, are not self-obsessed. We've had to learn how to think about ourselves, because we've overthought for other people.
Oh, 100%. And it makes me think, as you kind of speak of these types of toxic people, I know you mentioned the narcissist and the charming devil, which is on your types of types of toxic people. That one is the one, obviously, with that charm, because I know we'd spoken about this before, where it's like we're coming from a place of a big heart, we're viewing others from how we would treat other people. So it's kind of when those glasses come off of going, okay, so I'd hoped, it's rather than seeing someone for how you hoped they were, but seeing them for actually who they are. And that comes as well with, like Wendy saying, journaling, taking time, hearing your parts, because actually you don't want to then shame yourself because you didn't notice that, blame, because we're basing it from how we've viewed the world, how we hope that others will be. But it is, as soon as those kind of red flags, those alarm bells go for you, it's going, okay, I now see them for who they are. I didn't know that before because they didn't present me enough information for me to know that. But it doesn't make me a bad person that I didn't see it from their hello, or the first time they looked at me or spent time with me. It's going, okay, now I see it. So what steps do I need to put in for myself? And like you were saying, that's when, if you're feeling the pushback from somebody, that's a huge kind of moment to stop. Notice how you feel in your body. Notice those feelings coming up of, oh, I don't like that. I'd asked them to give me space, or it was only 2 hours ago that they sent me that message, but they're pressuring me for a response. And I think whenever we feel that pressure, it's almost fighting that with your journal, writing
especially
down.
With the pleasing people part. You're like, oh, I don't want them to be upset with me, and I don't want to be angry with me. And I think exactly through the journaling, it allows you to slow it down. And as everyone who listens to this podcast knows, my motto is slow is fast. In the healing journey, and then especially the emotional healing journey, especially when you're dealing with people who are unreasonable. You cannot reason with an unreasonable person. I'm going to repeat that because it took me decades to acknowledge that. You cannot reason with an unreasonable person. As you say, when you hear and you feel this tightness in your chest and the knots in your stomach, like, oh my God, that's the fifth message they sent me in 5 minutes, and they're getting really angry, they're getting really upset. Just notice that. Go and journal about it. and allow yourself to get annoyed and angry. You know, don't you feel the pressure, the guilt that they're putting upon you, because they're just trying to wear you down into a response that suits them. They're only thinking about themselves.
Because if they were thinking about you,
they would give you the respect to the time to come back. And exactly, the more that somebody pressurizes you, is they know that they're not giving you the time to contemplate how it works for you. And as Maxine's just been saying here, a reasonable person will go, sure, I respect that you're probably busy right now, you know, tonguing your hair or cutting the grass. You know, you're not exactly sitting there with your phone waiting for me to text you. So a reasonable person would say, would respect and give you the time for a response. And I think that's what we see a lot with the women that we're working with, is their big hearts are being used and abused because people are not giving them the respect that they deserve. And then equally, the women are learning that actually they're worthy of the time and respect that they deserve, because each and every one of us might need a different time frame to arrive at our own conclusions compared to somebody else, and it depends on what's happening.
And like you're saying as well, everyone's levels of boundaries are going to be slightly different and different things on what you feel comfortable doing. And I think when you allow yourself that time to feel what you are comfortable with doing and setting these boundaries, then whatever you set, regardless of what comes back, you can always come from that place of, no, I took time. I'm very comfortable with that boundary I put in place. That was a very reasonable response that I gave. And then it allows you to feel that power within you that Wendy speaks about. You know, it's coming back to that self-power and feeling that in yourself, that it's okay to have a voice and to say, this isn't working for me now. And to give it time, to do the slow is fast, whenever you're feeling that pressure to make quick reactive responses, even more so. I mean, another one of Wendy's great mottos that I live by is, if you don't know what to do, you do nothing
until you know what to do.
Until you know what to do.
If you don't know what to do, do nothing until you know what to do. Remember, I still do have the 3-day rule as well. If you get an email through and it's someone blaming, attacking, shaming, ouch, you know, it's not nice. Do not allow yourself to be emotionally responsive, because invariably the emotional response isn't the one that you need to give back, because they will then use that against you. So you write down, not on the email, in your notes section or in your journal, your upset and your anger and your rage and whatever, on paper or on your notes section. I say notes section, not on the email section.
In case you accidentally press send. Yes, that's always the fear.
And then allow yourself that emotion out. But then day 2, pull all the emotion out. Keep to the facts. Keep to the I. Don't do the blaming. You know, don't say you. Just say I. And then day 3, respond in a place where it's just the specifics. And don't allow other things, because again, this has taken me decades to figure this out. I didn't know that this was okay to do this kind of stuff, and to slow things down just absolutely gives you that perspective. Because another thing they're really good at is projection. And what I mean by projection is they will attack you personally, which is to pull, especially if there's someone that's got to know you and you're an open person, they will use your insecurities and your sensitivities. So
that manipulator on your toxic person, isn't it?
To pull on your strings and then go, well, what a shame. Well, maybe I should have said, maybe I should. So again, just notice, and they will project onto you like, oh, you always do that, or statements made to you when you go, actually, that's not how I think, and that's not how I feel. So what we're here today talking about is, again, going back to the basics of journaling, noticing, listening, and how slow can you go? Because I've got 11 types of toxic peoples here. And again, there might be many more. There might be many more shades of gray, but there's the narcissist who only cares about themselves, lacks empathy, is grandiose, and truly believes they are better than anyone and everybody else. The controller, who attempts to try and control everything, needs to be in charge of every decision, makes you feel like you can't do anything right. There's the drama magnet, enjoys drama, gossip, backstabbing whenever they feed off. In fact, we're joking about getting a sign saying this is you're entering a drama-free zone.
In the hope it would repel anyone that brings drama.
Even the postman knocking on the door. We don't do drama here. And then there's the energy drainer. You all know you have energy drainers in your midst, whether you work with them, live with them, or you were born of them. They're exhausting to be around as they feed off any negativity, and they criticize and they secretly try and bully you and manipulate you. The compulsive liar, the one that enjoys telling white lies but denies when they're caught, is a master of guilt trips, likes to twist, manipulate, gaslight conversations and events. The green-eyed monster, again, we've all been around these people where they're jealous and bitter of other people's good fortune and put down other people to feel better about themselves. The charming devil, as Maxine talked about, they're quite manipulative on a very high sophisticated level, because again, we're all susceptible to flattery. And we had a situation, I think just last week, where there was a gentleman who's been very complimentary and very flattering, and although it was a bit surprising because it was a bit too much, you kind of go, oh, well, that's nice, and it actually is designed to lower your guard for 100%. Yourself. So we have a saying is, watch the charming devil, because they'll take you straight to hell.
100. And again, like you say, we all know someone like that. And it's once you identify that, it allows you to step into that power. But you're absolutely right. It's when almost you're going, oh, thank you, that's another compliment, or oh, you're being very nice, like that's a bit. And then afterwards, perhaps you're starting to feel a bit insecure, or there's something that you hadn't even been aware of. Maybe they commented so much on your hair that you're a bit going, oh, it's like something wrong with it. Is it that? Yeah. So I do agree. They're definitely a high level, high functioning, and that's
we know exactly what they're doing.
Yeah,
don't they?
Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting here in this this sheet that we've created. The charming devil gives fake compliments, and that's a really interesting thing, because we're not saying you, and you know intuitively, instinctively, when someone's giving you a sincere compliment. At the same time, I know that when we're working with women and we give them sincere compliments, they're a bit like, why are you being nice to me? You know,
what do you want?
What do you want? Yeah. It's like, are you real? Because life has taught them to not to trust.
Yeah, right. Rightfully. They've got those protective measures 100%. And this is where it's, we're incredible human beings, incredible women, incredible human beings, that we do over time build these protective measures, but it's looking at why. And then it's also allowing, we want to be curious about things rather than kind of closing fully off.
Well, we don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater, do we? There's going to be genuine people who have earned the trust. I was talking about this recently, about how somebody said to me, oh, but it's really hard to trust people. And I said, well, for good reason. People perhaps were close to you that should have been able to be trusted, indicated to you that they weren't trustworthy. And I believe people have to earn the right to your trust.
I agree.
So it's like the rings on a tree. When you cut a tree trunk down, you see all these rings of a tree that signify its years of growth. You're in the center of that tree trunk. And people that are new should be on the outer rings. I mean, my mistakes, I was just like a big Labrador, like, hey, come in. And totally far too open to people coming in. And as you said,
and me too.
We're not necessarily open anymore. We're more curious. And I believe, and I know you're the same, that people have to earn the right to my trust. And again, this is why we're kind of doing this today, because I think there's a lot of wishy-washy, woolly, and I won't swear, stuff out there that is very discombobulating to people. Like it's like very confusing, with religion and social media. You get all these mixed messages about how you should be open and forgiving and vulnerable to everybody. No, you should not. You trust your instincts, and you trust these people at your peril.
They're that predatory nature.
You were talking about that today.
You have to be aware of that. And I think you're right. It's going slow, and someone does need to work to earn your trust. And I, exactly the same as Wendy, and I'm sure people listening will feel the same, used to absolutely trust people from the moment I met them, and then be so sad and wounded and grieve the fact that they were not trustworthy. And what's changed, in the last few years has been so powerful, because again, it's so powerful to take it slowly, because then when those engagements and those relationships, they're deeper, they're more exciting, you're more relaxed, because you've taken the time for them to, and there's very few people on that inner ring, and that I think is very important, and how it should be.
People should earn their right. And I think there's not much taught about this. It's all these just blanket, sometimes it's new age psychology, which I think is very dangerous, and people making statements in kind of big prominent positions of certain statements about things. And I think for me, I had to learn the hard way, and I know you did as well, about like how to be in the world safely, especially when you're looking to heal any disease. You're looking to do so from an emotionally empowered perspective. But if the beliefs that you have internally are counter to protection, our role, as we see it, is to empower women as to how to protect themselves, and most importantly, listen to their instincts above all else. Because you could be meeting somebody new, like a new person, and they could be getting a violin strings out and telling you sob stories, and you're suddenly absorbing that because you're so sensitive. So how do you protect yourself from that? Well, firstly, you recognize it. Now, how do you recognize it easily? Through journaling in the morning, recognizing how you feel emotionally, physically. Are you kind of not sleeping? Is it consuming your thoughts? Like, this person's like really sad, and this person is. So what's happening is they're absorbing, they're projecting, and you're absorbing this. So it's, how do you protect yourself? Well, you keep listening and journaling and paying attention, and you can only do that by putting ink on paper. And those who follow this podcast should know by now that my number one secret to life is putting ink on paper as you wake in the morning. It's so powerful,
because then you can see. I love what you said about when it starts consuming your thoughts, because I know I've been there in the past where, before you know it, you're thinking of this person consistently, and oh, what might they think if I did that, or what might they be doing right now? And as soon as they're consuming that, again, you have to slow down, think, journal, and just allow your thoughts to, and almost, again, it's that slow is fast, because you're really slowing things down and noticing if someone's really playing the violin and really doing that and getting into your heart, then that's where that.
But why are they doing that? Why are they repeatedly going on about something that is distressing or upsetting? If they're new to you, why? That's almost like an overshare, and almost trying to hook you in to feel sorry for them. And that kind of leads into the victim who's constantly seeking attention from other people, blames others for their misfortune, takes no responsibility for their own life. And that's really important. I wrote about this today in another journal thing, and it was about, we are not, in fact, there was a great song I was listening to the other day, and I'm like, I have to get the words for this. We are not responsible for anybody else's happiness. Any other adult, now obviously if you're a mother, you are responsible for your children, but for any other adults, be it your partner, be it your parents or work colleagues or your boss, you are not responsible for their happiness. And I say that really passionately, because I remember when I first learned, oh, it's not my responsibility to make everybody else happy. Really? Oh, what a huge weight off me.
Totally. Oh, exactly. And I think we're, through culture, through projections, society, social media, is because you've totally, I know I had, like, forgotten about yourself and how to come back to yourself. So it was giving out to make other people happy over yourself.
Absolutely. And then the last three is the pessimist, who talks down to others to make themselves feel better, focuses on the negative, tries to talk others out of their own dreams and ambitions. And that's the thing with women with endometriosis, so important. If you're listening to me, you're on my podcast, you've read my books, you know that there's something in you that has drawn you to me in the first place. And you know deep down in your instincts, it's possible. If I can come back from adenomyosis, endometriosis, cysts, chronic fatigue syndrome, mitochondrial dysfunction, thyroid issues, if I can put all of that in remission, you can too. Okay, but you have to understand that there's going to be people that are not going to want you to change. You're going to be fulfilling some need in them. It's all these things are subconscious, but you're fulfilling something in them that they don't want you to change. So again, just notice, you can email my team and get this handout. We can email it to you, but you can get this handout and just try and notice the different types of personalities. And then the last two is the criticizer, mocks, ridicules, teases, everything you've done makes, you're so sensitive, and
I was just joking.
Oh my goodness, that really makes my blood boil.
It was just a joke.
It was just, you can't take a joke then when it's not funny.
Exactly, when it's wounding and it's not funny at all.
And you literally can't do anything right. You could do backflips, somersaults, it doesn't matter what you do, you can't do anything right. And then I think we kind of talked on this, is the manipulator, similar to the controller, but is much more devious, pretends to like other people, but has their own selfish agendas, works behind everybody's back and plays others off against each other. Again, in some sort of circles, they call it triangulation or flying monkeys. Again, you'll know when somebody comes in, like drops a bomb and then disappears into the background and sits and observes as everybody else is kind of confused about what has shifted and changed, and they're not even aware of what's happened.
It's that before you know it, before you know it, you're starting to go, oh, I don't know why I don't feel comfortable around this person anymore after that person's come in and dropped something. What's changed?
That's what
that
we
was
were
the big question.
We're like, nothing's changed, but something's changed.
That person's now being a bit funny with me after they've engaged with who I thought was a friend there, or who was that, and then you start. It's that classic question when you're starting to just have question marks that I don't understand what has changed, because all of you listening, you're a beautiful, intelligent woman. And so you are so intelligent. So as soon as you're starting to have those questions of what's happened? I don't understand.
It's that somebody has been manipulating in the background. And again, if you can just keep slow, go back to your journal in the morning as you wake, journal, trust that this information, this extra information will come to you on your pages. I know it sounds weird for those of you who haven't started journaling yet, but everyone that works with us has to journal. And we know when you're journaling or not, because what it is a gateway to yourself, to that inner wisdom, that inner strength, the guidance that you need to get yourself to full health. And this is why we put so much focus on the emotional component, because it's not taught. I think people get the mental health, they get the physical health, but they don't necessarily get the emotional health. And this is our forte. This is what we are the best at. Woohoo! So I hope you enjoyed this today. If you have, then please do let us know. But Maxine, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
And I hope that this has just been a little boost to remind you, above all things, trust your instincts. Above, no matter who or what is being projected onto you. As I say, if you are here, you're listening to me, you're reading my book, something higher than you has guided you to me, and you're in the right place at the right time, and you can absolutely become an EndoBoss. Now, equally, we are doing the Unblock Emotional Blocks 21-day challenge. So please go and check it out. It's awesome. Every single woman that's gone through has had fantastic change in the positive direction and increased their emotional health, their awareness, and of course, our amazing team offer this incredible support. So please go and check it out at healendometriosisnaturally.com/programs, and you can get details there. So until next time, as always, look after yourself and to your health.
Thanks for listening to Heal Endometriosis Naturally with Wendy K Laidlaw, and I hope you enjoyed the show. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and rate us. If you're interested in learning more, you can download your top 5 jumpstart tips at healendometriosisnaturally.com and jump on the VIP email list. Remember to keep you number one, for the world needs a healthy you.